welcome back to Human. My name is Jess, and today I'm going to give you my 3 quick anxiety hacks for your phone, for virtual, for Instagram, and for text messages specifically. I don't know about you, but when I'm anxious, I have the worst shits. Sometimes I literally shit 5 times a day. And now if you're like, whoa, why are you starting off the episode like this? Welcome to the show. We are starting off episodes with poo talk, and nothing is off limits on Human. We get into the messiness of what it's like to be human, and this new segment I'm doing breaks the ice so we can get right into the topic. And I tell you a little bit about poo, and I talk to you a little bit about some TMI stuff that is really gross and relatable because we all shit, and hopefully I'll get some guests on here willing to get a little messy with me too. So this is the biggest thing though for me when I am anxious. This is like a telltale sign that I am struggling with anxiety and nervousness. And this is the thing, anxiety and excitement show up in the same way in your body, where it's just like sweaty palms, trembling hands, or more racing heart rate. And for me, it's shitting. I am a morning pooper. I am recording this after I've taken my 2 morning poops, and that's like the typical for me. I have a poop like really early on after I wake up, and then another one typically around the time I'm eating breakfast. But when I have anxiety, it's not fun. I mean, I'm sure you've had the anxiety shits before. They don't look great. They don't smell great. It's just not the vibe. And my hack for you with that actually is have wet wipes. It sounds weird, but baby wet wipes that are used like to clean up a baby after they use the washroom, amazing. And it actually isn't that weird because if you think about it, you use them on babies and they're humans and they're little humans and you're cleaning up their little bums. We need to clean up our big bums as adults. And so I love the brand Hello Bello. It's started by Kristen Bell and her husband Dax Shepard. They're very reasonably priced. They're like 99% water-based, and they just help solve your problems. I'll get more into like using wet wipes, using bidets, using like toilet paper in another episode because I have some really funny theories and topics of discussion to talk about around that I've heard from some people in my close circle, which I love, I find hilarious. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss more poo talk. It's a segment at the beginning of every episode, but I thought that could just get us into it. Let's be real fucking honest about our shit around the times that we are anxious. It's the worst. It's the worst when you have to do them outside the house, and it can leave your asshole hurting so much. Or maybe you're someone who, when you're anxious, you get constipated, which I don't know, maybe I should look up if that's really a thing. I'm really curious if, you know, all our bodies respond differently to things, but that is not me. I don't even drink coffee, so I can't even talk about coffee shits on here, but like I don't even drink coffee, and sometimes I'll shit 5 times in a day if I'm really anxious leading up to something important. So the 3 anxiety hacks I'm going to give you today are based on feeling triggered, and there's something we can do about that. Whether we like it or not, we have to interact with people that don't always make us feel our best in person and virtually. But unlike in person, virtually there are some secret tips and hacks that aren't that secret that can help you avoid feeling triggered when you don't have to. My first one is, in the position I'm in, I post a lot on my social media accounts at Human Pod on both Instagram and TikTok, and people in my circles, my outer circles, my acquaintance connections start to find out about Human, and some people follow my account, and I notice a shift at times if it's someone that I really care about their opinion, or I don't think that they really get what I'm doing. It'll change the way I post on my story. It'll change the way I show up on my platform, and that sucks because I'm not posting that stuff for them. I'm not posting what I post on Instagram and TikTok for my close friends even. I'm not posting that for my parents. I am posting it for the people that I probably don't know who will feel validated in hearing about my experience. Do you think my mom loves the fact that I'm talking about shit on my podcast? No. Do you think even my boyfriend supports it, but he's like, oh my God, I'm dating the girl who talks about shit. And so there is a lot of anxiety that sometimes festers inside of me when I'm like, oh my God, this person's seeing everything I post and it's making me not want to say this, that, and the other, when saying this, that, and the other feels really true to me and feels like something that could really help my community. So my little hack is to hide them from my story. This isn't always a long-term thing. Sometimes I just need to do it for like a week or two, maybe a month, before I start to like get more comfortable with the fact that like, okay, they're seeing my reels, they're seeing my posts. Now it's like, okay, I can get a bit more comfortable. Maybe they can see my stories now, or maybe there's someone I literally never unhide from my stories. And you might be thinking, wouldn't they find out? This is my theory with it. Okay, some of the people that may have come to mind for you when I was thinking about this is like family members, extended family, step family, I don't know, whatever kind of family you got. I'm sure there's someone in there where you're like, I don't want them seeing the things I'm sharing, especially if you're showing up in a similar way where you want to show up for your community and you want to propel your career in some way online. Your family, your in-laws, your exes, maybe they're not the people you want to be seeing this shit. I feel very fucking lucky because I'm public. My exes can listen to anything I say. My exes can look at anything I post. But I ended up making new accounts over the course of like the past 3, 4, like I haven't had a long-term ex in 4 years. And then I have had like a situationship fling that ended like 3 years ago. So it's been a while since I've had like an ex where I would really be like, I don't want them alone, I don't want them to see. But I do think sometimes about like, oh, my high school boyfriend might see what I post. But again, I'm not posting it for him. So something to ease your anxiety could be, let me tell you how to do it. The way you can hide someone from seeing your stories is you go to Instagram, you go to your profile, you go to the 3 bars, and then you click settings and privacy. You scroll down and it says hide story and live. So you actually can't hide them from seeing your posts, but you can hide them from seeing your stories, and you can hide them from seeing the times you go Instagram live. So you click that and then you can search from anyone following you and you can hide them. And so this is my thought process in terms of like people saying, oh, don't you think they're going to find out? Okay, now that I'm making a fucking episode, honestly, I have one person hidden from my stories, and it's, again, probably a short-term thing, and it's more related to family in-law situations. But I'm thinking to myself, like, would this person ever find out? And if they somehow figured out that I hid them from their story, I think that's really weird, because that means they're searching me up and they're trying to look at my story every single day, and then they're seeing every single day I don't have a story, and then they're like eventually put it together that I don't have a story, or I hide them from my story. Or another option is they go on someone else's account, or they have a second Instagram account, and then they search me up that way and then look at my story, and then they see that they can't find it from their other account. It's such a long track. It's such a long like rabbit hole of them having to like purposely be seeking out my stories, which I don't think anyone's paying attention to us that much. So I don't think they'll figure out that I hid them from my story, because like they would go to such great lengths to have to figure that out. And then, in my opinion, if they're trying so hard to see it, that's weird. And at the end of the day, it's like for my own anxiety and my own needs. Like, I just noticed someone followed me on Instagram that is related to me and someone I'm going to have in contact for my life for a very long time. And so I was like, okay, I really don't feel like I can show up as authentically as I would like to right now, because I care a lot about their opinion, but I think that they aren't really into the stuff I'm into. So I'm going to hide them for now, because it's just going to help me show up in the way I still want to show up. And I have been able to. Fuck yeah. And if they found out, I think that would be so weird. I think they would have to go to such great lengths to find out that I hid them from my story. My anxiety hack number 2 is to mute them. So this is different from hiding them. Hiding someone from seeing your story is about them not seeing you. But muting someone on Instagram is about you not seeing them. So what this really helps me with is if I'm getting triggered by an influencer or a family member or a friend or, you know, someone in my circle or someone in my outer circle that I'm always going to be following, but I'm getting really triggered for some reason. Like, I actually did this with a bunch of influencers. When I was comparing myself to these people, I was really, really struggling because I was like, why aren't I as far as them? Why am I not showing up like them? So I was like, Jess, chill the fuck out. You're literally making this so much worse on your mental health. Mute them, and you can always unmute them. So I did that, and it really helped me get out of my comparison mindset. So even if you have friends you love so much or family you love so much, but you find yourself comparing yourself to them all the time, muting them for a short period of time could be really, really helpful for you to like have some time to check in with yourself, figure out why that's happening, and just get yourself to a place where you don't need to do that, and you kind of start to dig deep into why, and you don't have to completely take an Instagram break in order to not see that particular person's content. So the way to do that is you search up their profile on Instagram, and the weird thing is you click following, which I would assume right away would like make me unfollow them, but there's a whole multitude of options that come up when you click the following button, and you can click mute, and there's two options. You can mute their posts and you can mute their stories. So you can do one or the other, or you can do both, and that is amazing because they don't know you muted them. They still see that you're following them. You're just simply not going to be seeing their stories or posts come up on your feed, which is amazing because like that you can't control the algorithm, or maybe some people say you can, but I'm sure there's tactics. But overall, like most of us average humans aren't trying to control the algorithm. So the Instagram feed would probably be feeding us them all the time. And so if they're ever like, why don't you comment on my Instagrams? It'd be like, oh, weird. I just like haven't seen them recently. My algorithm's been super weird. There's your excuse right away. But I find that's really helpful for me because, it just helps me like reset, and then I always can like reassess later and be like, okay, if I want to like unmute them, unfollow or whatever, like keep them muted, unfollow them altogether, I can do that. And I just wanted to talk about these two specific features on Instagram specifically because so often people are like, if you're getting triggered, block them. If you don't like them and don't want them in your life, unfollow them. And like that feels really extreme because there are so many situations with human beings where it's in the middle. It's in that messy middle zone of you're like, I don't know if they're in my life, or they're still in my life, or they're still in my life, but like I'm struggling with them, or like I love these influencers, I don't want to unfollow them, I want to maybe continue to see their posts but not their stories. You can use these features. Mute and hide someone from your story. Changed my freaking anxiety. I call it an anxiety hack because if you're getting triggered by these people, this is a quick fix that like, yes, isn't getting to the root of the problem, but it's helping you set some boundaries. It's truly setting boundaries to reassess your needs and put yourself first, truly, because your Instagram feed is for you. It's actually about looking at things that bring you joy, not things that are going to make you feel like shit. And so curate that bitch. And along the lines of that, also spend some time going through who you follow and who makes you feel good and who doesn't make you feel good, and you can always change that. You do have some control over your feed and your algorithm, so make sure you make use of that. There's also a like or like a favorite thing feature on Instagram now, so people that I really love and I specifically don't want to miss their content, I'll favorite them and their stuff will always come up at the top of my feed. Anxiety hack tip number 3 is something that has to do with your text messages on iPhone, specifically on your iMessages. And what it is basically you can hide someone's alerts, and when you hide someone's alerts, they still call you and the calls still come through, but the text, it doesn't alert you when someone texts you. For me, I don't have my text message notifications on my lock screen because I get really fucking distracted. So if I have my phone sitting next to me right now and like someone texts me, my screen won't pop up. And I really, really love that because it's like when I open my phone, and I open my phone all the fucking time, then I'll see an icon and it'll be like 3 text messages, and I'll be like, oh my god, okay, I have 3 text messages, great. And when I'm doing stuff on my phone, I'll also have the text messages come up on that top bar. But if someone's muted, that won't happen. But the mute feature for me is really more about reminding me that this person triggers me. The perfect example in my life is my lovely brother that I love dearly, who also triggers the fuck out of me. We have a love-hate relationship, as all siblings do, and obviously it's more love than hate for me, but he can be a dick sometimes, and he specifically can know how to trigger me because we've known each other our whole lives, and if anyone knows how to piss you off and push your buttons, it's your fucking sibling. And so we have had like more fights as adults these past couple months that have been like really bugging me. And so I muted him or just like hid his alerts on text message so that when you pull up text messages, I'll explain to you what it looks like. In like, it'll show their name and it'll show like the last text, and then in the very corner in like the right hand corner it'll show like a bell and then like a cross out of it, which basically says like you have their text message alerts hidden. So their calls still come through, my brother still calls me and I'm like, hey bitch, what's up? But when he texts me, I still like get a little icon, but it doesn't like interrupt what I'm doing. And then when I go on to my messages, if I see like the little bar, it just reminds me like if he's texting you anything that's pissing you off or if he's triggering you, like it's just a reminder. This is someone you need to be more cautious around. This is someone you need to set more boundaries around, and just proceed with caution. So these are my 3 anxiety hacks to use on your phone that can help you really quickly just establish a boundary, realize you need to proceed with caution, or just feel like you can go on your phone and do it in a way that makes you filled with more joy. So the first one is to hide someone from your story, and this is so they can't see what you post. The second one is to mute them on Instagram, and that is so you can't see what they post. And the third thing is to hide their alerts, and this is so the bell just reminds you to proceed with caution and remember to put your boundaries in place and show up in the best way that can make you feel fulfilled and less anxious. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this quick episode with my 3 anxiety hacks for your phone. I hope you're enjoying these little poo stories at the beginning. I feel like it's such a fun way to be like, we're all human, we're all gross, it's all good. I'm sure you have stories to relate. Make sure you leave a review. It's really, really easy. You just go to whatever platform you're currently listening to this on and click a 5-star review, hopefully. And if you can, leave a written review. It means so much. Follow me on Instagram at human2humanpod and my TikTok at human2humanpod. Also, if you are someone who really struggles with anxiety in day-to-day life, I really encourage you to check out my human-to-human coaching offer. I create a very safe, non-judgmental, confidential space where I encourage you to word vomit, let things off your chest. I like to say laughing and crying is always welcome, and I can really help you work through what you're experiencing, what your limiting beliefs are, what your triggers are, to be able to live a life of alignment and feel like you can show up more authentically as yourself, more comfortably, set boundaries, and use some of these tools that I just talked about in this episode. These are just a few things that I do and learn and talk about with my coaching clients. So if you're interested, please book a free 30-minute call or message me on Instagram or email human2humanpod@gmail.com. It's truly some of the most fun, fulfilling work I've ever done. I have lots of tools in my toolkit from my 4-year bachelor's degree in psychology. I've done therapy for 3 years, and I love, if you can't see behind me, I have a ton of books. I love to read up on different research and tools on how to just better our mental health, show up for ourselves, and be able to listen to our body, our needs, and our fears. And that's what we talk about in human-to-human coaching. If you're interested for more detail, never hesitate to reach out to me. My DMs are always open. And again, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. And I will see you next Monday for a brand new episode.